Fox News alert, an explosive college admissions scandal has landed two Hollywood actresses in big trouble with the law. Felicity Huffman and Lori Loughlin are among dozens of people charged in a $25 million bribery scheme. Authorities say rich parents bribed, cheated, and defrauded in order to get their kids into some of the country's most elite schools. The alleged crimes include paying for someone to take their kids' SATs, paying an admissions consultant to bribe coaches into labeling their kids as recruited athletes to boost their chances, and also faking athletic profiles to make students look like strong athletes when they actually weren't. There is no evidence that school admissions were involved in any of the wrongdoing. The U.S. attorney in charge describing the bombshell allegations.
The parents charged today, despite already being able to give their children every legitimate advantage in the college admissions game, instead chose to corrupt and illegally manipulate the system for their benefit. We're not talking about donating a building so that a school's more likely to take your son or daughter. We're talking about deception and fraud, fake test scores, fake athletic credentials, fake photographs, bribed college officials.
Felicity Huffman is expected in court this hour, while Lori Loughlin is reportedly on a flight back to L.A., where she is expected to surrender to authorities. For more, let's go to Jonathan Hunt, who is live at the courthouse in L.A. with the latest. Jonathan.
Jesse, good afternoon to you. Felicity Huffman, the actress famed for her role in Desperate Housewives, of course, among 13 people due to appear this hour in the federal court behind me. She, as well as the actress Lori Loughlin, are both one or two of dozens accused of taking part in what was a wide-ranging scheme, essentially to bribe and defraud the college admissions system to get their children into colleges that those parents presumably thought they otherwise would not be able to get into. Felicity Huffman and her husband, William H. Macy, accused, for instance, of paying $15,000 to alter SAT test scores. Lori Loughlin and her husband, who is the designer Mossimo Giannulli, are accused of paying $500,000 to have their two daughters labeled as recruits to the USC crew team. Neither of those daughters ever took part in that sport. So this was a wide-ranging scheme, one essentially run by a company that was run out of Newport Beach, California, by a man called William Singer. He pleaded guilty earlier today to racketeering. Now, we assume that he has given the feds much of the evidence on which all of these charges are based. So we will now have these 13 here in L.A. arraigned. We have not seen Felicity Huffman at this point, although she should, by all logic, be inside the courthouse already. We have seen her husband, William H. Macy. He was asked if he wanted to comment on the case. His answer was no. Jesse?
Great get there, Jonathan. Thank you very much. All right, so, Greg, you were a big fan of Full House.
Oh, yes.
Desperate Housewives. Are you taking this especially hard?
I am damaged by the news. This is the great thing about this scandal is that when they make the movie, everyone can play themselves. Because who can play Felicity Huffman better than Felicity Huffman? She's an amazing actress.
And I like William H. Macy.
But there's a couple of things. People are often as sinful as their options allow them to be. So you have to ask yourself, if this option were allowed for you to help your kid get a leg up, would you do it? So it's like we can dislike what they do, but we have to wonder, what if we had that option? But it does show that a lot of people really enjoy this story because we have a biological revulsion to line cutting, and everybody hates all kinds of line cutting, whether it's actually cutting in a line or immigration or college admissions. It's something that bugs us. We are programmed to be disgusted by people who don't get there the right way.
They were bribing the coyotes,
yes,
and then they were cutting in line in front of the other people.
And by the way, this is why I only have house plants and not kids, because I don't need to grease a gardener's palm, to get him to trim my boxwoods. Oh. Stupid kids are a problem.
I thought there were other reasons you didn't have kids, but that's fine. Dana, this story, obviously everybody's interested because, like Greg said, there's a line cutting, but it's also the Hollywood angle.
Right.
People are fascinated when big shot
to try to tell us how to live.
Right, and now they're looking at some hard time.
There was in one of the recorded conversations that the FBI got, somebody says, I'm not so much worried about the moral part of things. I'm just worried about what's going to happen if we get caught. Okay. And I was like, well, this is what's going to happen. You're going to be embarrassed. And it's, I think what really drives it is it's the fairness issue, right? So you're like everybody in the world, a human being is born. Fairness is like innate in you. And then making money by helping rich people get their already privileged kids even more privileged so that they can make more money seems like the system is rigged. Mm-hmm. Like the system is working against you. And kudos to President Trump's FBI, who went ahead and got these guys and said that we're not going to put up with this anymore. I don't have children either, but I do know, I have plenty of friends that do, and I know that they start talking about paying for college before the babies are even conceived. Yeah. You start wondering, like, how am I going to make this happen? Getting your child into college now is like a part-time job. Mm-hmm. And kids don't even have part-time jobs because it's their job to try to get into college because they have to have all the requisite things that they can get in there. And so I'm glad that they caught them. I don't know if it's more widespread, right? So we found these guys, but does this happen elsewhere? So now, like Dana said, Juan, parents are thinking, wait, did my son or daughter not get into this school because some rich fat cat bribed some coach to scam them in?
Right. I mean, this is not a victimless crime. There are real people who suffered as a result of lost opportunity getting into the very best schools in the country. But to me, there's a bigger story here. As you know, there's a lawsuit right now that's been put forward by conservatives using Asians to challenge affirmative action at Harvard. And in the course of that debate, here's what we found, Jesse, you know, that in fact, right now, if you look at it at selective schools, if you have a legacy, and that's what these people, you know, these people were talking about athletics, but legacies, in other words, if you went to the school and then applied for your kids, that's even bigger than athletics. 34% admitted, 5 times higher than people whose parents did not go to the school. So if you went to Harvard, you're already rich, entitled, and famous, and now your kid applies, tremendous advantage, especially if the kid has good enough grades, even a bigger boost. So the most privileged kids in America, they get the biggest boost. Not the black kids, not the Asian kids, not the Hispanic kids. And the second point to make is athletics. If you have an athletic credential on your resume, which is what these fraudsters were doing, they were putting pictures of the kids on the bodies of athletes and pushing it out there. But if you're an athlete, guess what? You have about a 50% boost in terms of your likelihood to get into a school. And just one last point, most of the athletes in America, despite you see the black basketball players, the black football player, it's not the blackest. Most college athletes are white, like 70%, and they're in things like lacrosse, crew, ice hockey. I could go on.
Don't forget squash.
Don't forget fencing.
But nobody brought up race. I know you did.
I know.
Because
that's my point.
No, the conservatives are using Asians to challenge affirmative action at Harvard as if, the Asians are being discriminated.
I don't know how we got into the Asian question.
Let's talk about the people named in the complaint. I read the criminal complaint. And you know what? It's not about advancing their kids and making their lives better down the road. They're embarrassed by their dumb kids, and they couldn't get into a decent school. If you read the complaint, and I don't know if we have the sound of it, but if you go online, Olivia Jade, one of Lori Loughlin's kids, has a YouTube channel. Yeah. She had a career before she ever had to go off to USC, which she got into. Apparently, because of a fight, they paid $500,000, her parents, for the 2 kids to get into USC to be on the crew team.
And I think we have some sound of Lori Loughlin's daughter that we can listen to.
I don't know how much of school I'm going to attend, but I'm going to go in and talk to my deans and everyone and hope that I can try and balance it all. But I do want the experience of, like, game days, partying. I don't really care about school, as you guys all know.
Here's what her mother said in the complaint, or her father copying her mother. I have some concerns, and I want to fully understand the game plan and make sure we have a roadmap for success as it relates to our daughter and getting her into a school other than ASU. So he was embarrassed.
Poor ASU.
Well, that's the other thing about all of this is that college is really not that important, folks. It's really not. It is too expensive. And one of the reasons that you have tuitions that are so high is because people are willing to do things like this. Mm-hmm. So there's no incentive to lower it. Like, none of us went to a fancy school, right?
No, I did.
I went to Wake, which is in the indictment.
That's pretty.
Wait,
Forest is part
Greg
of.
went to Berkeley.
That's kind of fancy.
That is pretty fancy.
It was
I
take
no,
it
but-
back. Okay, I didn't go to a fancy school.
No, but to your point, we've elevated the importance of college. We've reduced the barrier for loans, which has ballooned the size of the administrations. And so now you have all these kids saddled with debt. But even more, because it used to be, okay, the virtue signal to get a job was a BA, right? But now everybody can get a BA.
Yeah,
now it's so now it's master's.
Right.
So now you got to spend more money to get a master's. And now master's isn't enough. Now you got to go to PhD. So now what we're doing
guess
is
what? No one hires people with PhDs.
Really?
Google at one time wouldn't even interview you unless you went to an Ivy. You couldn't even get a job interview. Even if you went to a decent school like Virginia Tech, you couldn't get in. And I just want to add this. You know, it made sense to go to Wake Forest. It was $7,500 a year when I started school there. I could major in art history and blow it off and not get not care about the education.
Well, I think
not anymore.
Unlike Dana, I think college is very important because guess what?
I didn't say it's not important. I said it's not this important.
Yeah, I think it is very important.
It's where you learn about identity politics, Juan.
Let him finish.
Thank you. Thanks, Jesse. Credentialing, especially for low-income kids, minority kids, to have the college degree makes a huge difference, and you can quantify it in terms of lifetime income.
I agree with that. I agree with that, but maybe my point is this. Going to an elite college is way overblown. The importance of that, I get it. I didn't have anything. I didn't have any connections. I didn't have family. I didn't have a legacy. I guess I could have gone to University of Wyoming. I went to University of Southern Colorado on a speech team scholarship.
Right.
There's
Are you sure your mom didn't put your face on a speech team body to get you in there?
Oh, this is a speech team body.